once I decided to literally stop people pleasing and stop caring what other people thought about me, I was able to put myself out there in this really scary but exhilarating way. And then my entire world started to open up.
Welcome to the Thriving After Divorce podcast, where you learn the secrets to reclaim your life and turn your breakup into your breakthrough. Transformation expert, internationally published author, and online show host Tanya Marie Dubé will help you quickly pick up and move on as you tune into interviews with some pretty cool experts from around the world, showing you how to live your best life after divorce. If you're ready to learn the skills to finally put your divorce behind you for good, dig down really deep, and step into your highest self, then you're in the right place. Here's your host, online educator and mom of two, Tanya Marie Dubé.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back. You're listening to the Thriving After Divorce radio podcast, and I am your host, Tanya Marie Dubé. I want to remind you to please like, comment, subscribe, share, and please review this podcast. I have a goal of reaching 1 million women, because when you teach a woman, you teach an entire community, and the love just spreads. So please share this with your friends, family, and colleagues, and let's reach this goal together. So in this episode today, I cover ways to keep up your inner strength, to find the momentum to truly create a life that you love while dealing with the after effects of dealing with a narcissist. Now, going through this is not for the faint of heart, as all of you know, and it is one of the most difficult things you have to deal with because it's not really going to go away until your kids are older. So the only thing that you can really do is learn how to cope with it and deal with it so that you can have the life that you really want. You're going to find ideas here today that if you lean on them, you will find the peace that you need to deal with what's going on in your life. You'll be able to calmly reflect on your circumstances with some clarity, and you'll know how to handle whatever it is that you're dealing with. So I'm going to take you back a little bit. I remember being in the kitchen with some people that I can't really name here and being targeted by this one specific man who treated me so poorly over a number of years, but he'd always do it in this subtle way that nobody else could pick up on. So I didn't know what narcissistic personality disorder was most of my life. And so I couldn't call it that. I didn't know that that's what was happening to me, but I knew that something was wrong, and I knew I wasn't being treated properly, and I really was being targeted out of everybody for this behavior. So when I finally did call it out as abuse, because it had been going on for so many years, a team of people who were used to being treated so poorly but didn't have the courage to stand up for themselves actually rallied for the abuser, putting me down and making me feel like I should learn to shut up and put up with it, whether I wanted to or not, because of this hierarchical dynamic inside of this religious group. Now, this also happened to me when I was a kid, but in a little bit of a different way, with a different narcissistic abuser. He had sexually molested me, and when I was brave enough to face him, everyone rallied for that man too, teaching me at this really, really young age that I wasn't important enough to listen to, that I did something wrong by calling him out and standing up for myself, and that the way I was treated in life just really didn't matter. And the crazy thing is that it turned out in the end that a family member of the man who abused me and had rallied so much for him against me that it ruined my relationship with her. It turned out that when I was an adult, she actually came clean and admitted that he had been sexually abusing her entire childhood. So how about that? Isn't that something, right? So it makes me think, what lessons are we teaching children, or anyone for that matter who's been victimized in any way, when we rally for the abuser simply because we don't see him or her that way and we don't want to face what they've done? Now, it's not easy to say that you were wrong about someone. It's not easy to say sorry. And if you're anything like me, you've learned that those lessons that you've had to learn in life, they didn't come with an apology. I still haven't received an apology from any of my abusers years after they've done so much damage. They just seem to continue on with their lives like nothing's happened. And then we're left to pick up all the pieces, right? It's one of the many, many reasons so many victims of narcissistic personality disorder end up with post-traumatic stress disorder. Emotional symptoms of PTSD do really vary from person to person. And, I want to say here that it can include anxiety and feelings of isolation and depression. This is not to be taken lightly. It's no wonder that we all recommend going no contact when we finally make the break with a narcissist. We need to heal. right? So I have picked up the pieces so many times in my life after ending relationships with people who were narcissistic and start completely over. I never knew what was really happening to me or why it was happening. Like I mentioned earlier, I didn't even know what narcissistic personality disorder was, but I felt imprisoned, right? I felt like the person I was in a relationship with was doing things to sabotage my life, to ruin my goals or my future in general. I had someone who was literally going out of their way to harass me, to try to intimidate me, to gaslight me, which means for anyone listening who doesn't know this term, this is the craziest thing. They make you feel like there's something actually wrong with you and not them. So when you call them out on something that they've done, they turn it around on you and try to make it seem like it's all in your head. You didn't really see that. It's a tactic that narcissists use when they're trying to get the focus off of them and onto you. They try to make you feel crazy, like the way they cut eyes at you didn't really actually mean anything and it's all in your head, or the tone of voice didn't imply something more, or the language they used wasn't intended to make you look bad. You're just being sensitive. So this is gaslighting. So remember the first of the two abusers that I just mentioned? That's how I learned that word. He did that to me, but then tried to tell me that I was the one gaslighting him. It's the crazy. Dealing with a narcissist is the craziest thing you will ever deal with. Nothing is ever their fault. Anything you say or do will always be used against you. It is absolute insanity. So I just want to point out that I know that dealing with this ongoing nonsense is really, really tough. And then you try to add some peace into your life when you can, on top of having to deal with all of that. So how do you do it? What is the secret to handling this, to juggling it all and making life work, especially when you have kids? Keeping your sanity is priority number one, and so is self-preservation. So when you can't go no contact and you have to deal with it, what feels like every single day, doesn't it? Or when he has the kids, all of a sudden that's when he goes into attack mode because he sees your time away from the kids is like you're going off partying all the time or having this insane life that he so desperately wants to keep you from having. So for lots of people, when you can't go no contact, you have to deal with it. There are loads of techniques that you can use, to keep a narcissist at bay, which I can't go into right now. We will save that for another episode because it's really important to me that right now you understand how to manage what you're actually going through in this moment. So the first thing is I want to start with, where do you find some peace in your day? So I look for moments in my day, in my life, where I can be by myself and reflect on whatever is going on in my head. And the first thing I do is ask myself how much control I have over the situation that I'm dealing with and how much of my time and effort should be attributed to that. So if I can't control what is happening, meaning that it is completely out of my hands, then I let it go and I make a deal with myself that I'm only going to deal with it when it comes up. So even if it pops itself back into my day or into my head throughout my entire day, I tell myself this is not the time or the place to deal with this. I will deal with this later. What I'm doing is training my brain to compartmentalize. So what I'm focusing on right now is the only thing that takes up that space. It's not easy to do, but you can do it. All you have to do is practice, right? So I look for times and I look for places that I can take 10 deep breaths. If I can close my eyes, even better. Feel my feet on the ground and reassure myself that I'm going to be all right, right? Some of the things that we go through when we're having to deal with narcissists make us feel like our lives are over, right? We go right into this fight or flight mode, which is natural. And the fight part of it feels like you're fighting for your life every single time. So this is why you need to reassure yourself that you're going to be all right and that this is not forever. This is just going on for right now. And there are things that you can do to control that. And this is one of them. So find the time to close your eyes and take those 10 deep breaths. You'll feel a release in your chest. You'll feel so much better. So another thing that I do is I meditate. For me, this is the surefire way to connect with myself in a way that I have never experienced before. And this means getting in really good and tight with your intuition. Right? Your intuition is your compass in life. So try meditating if you haven't already done it, or if you used to do it but you stopped, just get back into it. You can literally meditate anywhere, but try to do it first thing in the morning when you wake up. I jump out of bed. I try to jump out of bed the very first way that I can. If I'm lagging in bed, I'll do something to jumpstart my day. So I try to not meditate in bed because I'll probably fall back asleep. But I want you to sit up with your back straight and take some really, really deep breaths slowly and just center yourself. Just be in that moment. If any thoughts come in that you don't want to deal with, that you shouldn't be thinking of, just gently push them back out. You'll deal with them when you're done. And then at the end of this meditation, set your intention for the day. And whatever your intention is for the day, you stick to that no matter what. So if it's to find love, to find peace, to find joy in the little things, to not deal with anything difficult that day, whatever your intention is, just make sure that you stick to it. And no matter what you do, you'll deal with it tomorrow. That's setting your intention, right? So this one thing, when done over and over again, taking this small space for yourself before you tackle anything in your day, will literally change your life. So when you start doing this, take notice of it, because it's really something else. So I want to take this time to mention that when you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't sleep because something is really bothering you that you have no control over, the best thing you can do is shut your eyes, take some deep breaths, and hand it over to God or Source or whatever you like to call it. We can't do everything on our own. This we do know. We know this for a fact. So in this moment of deep breathing with your eyes closed, imagine someone standing next to you with their arms open and their hands holding a bag, and start to put everything that's hard for you that you have to deal with into this bag. If you can't visualize a bag, I want you to visualize some kind of file transfer of all the things that you can't handle and put it all into a folder. It doesn't matter to me how you imagine it. Just take it off of you and put it someplace else. Now, I say God because this is something that brings me peace to know that I'm not alone. You may not feel the same way, but you have to put those things that bother you somewhere else and out of your head. So just take a little bit of time to figure that out. Take a pen and a piece of paper and just figure that out. What does that mean to you? If you had to relieve yourself of some of this pressure and the feelings of burden and overwhelm, where can you put it? What can you do with that? Put it in a jar, right? Visualize a jar. Just do something. Now, the next point I want to make is that you have to take some time for yourself and understand that if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. So how in the world can you take care of everyone else if you're not getting your own needs met? So seriously, ladies, it's not about being selfish. To add to the mix of things that has to happen for everybody in a week, add in a day or a night for yourself. And if you can't do a day, then do a half day. And if you can't do a half day, then do a few hours. You get what I'm saying? But this should be non-negotiable time for you that comes first in that time slot. So no matter what, you don't give up that time, and you do not make excuses for anyone who tries to take that away from you. This is the space where you show up for yourself and you do your best to love, respect, and listen to your intuition. This isn't the space for partying and getting tipsy and drinking and doing all these things that you may regret later, or that now you won't be able to focus on anything because you're hungover. This space that I'm talking about is for you to grow through your pain. So you're going to do things that open you up and make you feel alive. So what things did you always want to do but never had the chance to do because he didn't see the value of it? So he did his best to ruin those moments for you. What things do you love? We all make time for the things that we love. We all find the money for something that is really meaningful to us, right? So what is it? I'm sure something has popped into your head, so let's find a way to do it. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give you some homework and say that the moment this podcast episode ends, I want you to make an appointment for this thing that you want to do, and then you're just going to worry about finding the money for it later. And if they want a deposit, find it the latest time you can give it. But, look, I've had to tell complete strangers bits and pieces of my situation. And if I'm vulnerable enough and speaking from the heart, then you'll find that most people will want to accommodate your needs. But it means that you're going to have to understand how much you deserve to have this thing that you want. And sometimes we're going to have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable in order to get it. So that makes me think you got to get used to this phrase, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I love this phrase. You'll hear me say it a lot. This used to make my skin crawl, putting myself so far out of my comfort zone that I wouldn't, I'd have an upset stomach and wouldn't be able to sleep for weeks. But once I decided to literally stop people pleasing and stop caring what other people thought about me, I was able to put myself out there in this really scary but exhilarating way. And then my entire world started to open up. So there's some power in that. So just play around with the idea of this a little bit. My next point is, I want you to really watch who you surround yourself with. We do a really good job with self-sabotaging our lives. I want you to think of your fears like a tree. And then the roots under the tree are all the ways you've grounded yourself to your fears. So remember that your ego will find a way to make itself right about you every single time. And if you're walking through life believing that you don't deserve to be happy and healthy and have good things in your life, then your ego will find a way to get you in a job that you hate. And you'll find comfort in that job because you'll know what to expect out of the dysfunction, right? When we've been through chaos and dysfunction, we know what to expect there. It's easier to do that than to venture out into the unknown and put yourself out there because that's safe and we don't know safe. So spend some time thinking about this. Your ego, if you don't believe that you deserve to have good things and good people in your life, your ego is going to, get you to hang out with people who bring you down and don't have much going on in their lives. You'll find a boyfriend who doesn't truly love you. You'll let your kids walk all over you. Your thoughts are going to be negative. Your actions will be negative. You'll spill coffee on yourself constantly. Nothing will ever work out for you. And you're going to literally be the person who's saying, oh man, that kind of thing never happens to me. Does that sound familiar? I don't know. If that's not you, then well done. But this is exactly the way that my life was, more or less, before I decided that I wasn't living my true life and that I was tired of living in what was comfortable. I needed to start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable and put myself way out there. So this made me feel alive, and it's literally what brought me back to life. Lastly, I'm going to connect back with point number 2, the second point that I made. You cannot do this alone. So hire someone to help you. Now, I remember really, really well how I held on to every single penny I had for dear life. But let's be honest, it still went to wine and going out with friends when I wanted to, or going on dates or buying clothes for those dates. So you have to start finding the value in taking care of yourself in this way. Here's the thing. We don't know what we don't know. And what got you here today, right now, is not enough to get you to where you want to go, my friend. So do what you have to do. Find the money and hire someone to hold your hand, to stand with you in this fire that you're in, and lean on, someone for you to lean on when the going gets tough. So yeah, you're going to have to spend money here. There's no way around that. But the way I look at it is this: the money is going to be spent on something. So spend it on you. Put everything you got into your personal development and go all in. Treat it like your life depends on it, because it actually does. So it's time for you to show up for yourself and make a big impression on your children about how important you are, because a year goes by really fast. And if you're still stuck in everything you're stuck in a year from now, I promise you, you will kick yourself. You're going to look back and be like, that could have been an entire year that I used to change my life. I'm still in this mess. Like, what do I do? So if that's you now and you should have done this a year ago, then, understand that you're listening to this right now for a reason. So pay attention to that. Tony Robbins says, if you want to take the island, you got to burn the boats. And this means literally, if you're really serious about making some real amazing and beautiful changes in your life so that you're living this next chapter with love and intention and peace, then you're going to have to kick plan B literally to the curb and really, really focus on healing and growing. So this means what you know now and who you were before today, that's the boat. You're going to burn the boat and take control and make a stand for what is yours. And the reward for that kind of bravery is that you get your life back in a way you never even knew possible. You get the whole island, right? So imagine the possibilities. So I'm going to leave you with this, folks. I hope that you start your week with intention and you don't forget to make that appointment to do that thing that you've always wanted to do. And then feel free to email me at info@tanyadubay.com to let me know how it goes. I have a little treat for you now. I mentioned this at the very beginning. It's an amazing little guide that I created for you about self-healing and growth after divorce, and it's called the Divorce Recovery Starter Kit. Now, this is a resource guide, so I want you to know that everything in there is based off of 3 main categories: dealing with shame, guilt, and rejection, self-love, and the badass mindset you need to adopt in order to get yourself moving in the right direction. So it's the first step, right? I want you to read through the table of contents to see what's in there and have a look. Now, I've been in your shoes at the point where everything feels like it's spinning out of control. And I want you to know that you're going to be all right. I know you're busy and you're not going to have time to read this whole thing from cover to cover. So feel around it, know what's in there, and then make a point of referring to it before making any sudden crazy moves in your life. Because when you're just starting out, you need a little extra. So take the time to get your emotional intelligence in check, refer to this starter kit, and then off you go. So go to tanyadubay.com/sign up to download it now. So that's tanyadube.com/sign up. TANYADUBE.com/sign up, all one word. So thank you so much for sharing this space with me today. You have been listening to the Thriving After Divorce radio podcast, and I am your host, Tanya Marie Dubé. I am so honored to be here with you, and I will be back same time, same place next week. So we'll see you then. Bye. Thank you again so much for joining us on the Thriving After Divorce radio podcast. We're coming to you every Monday morning so that you can start your week with intention and some powerful advice for what you're dealing with. So please subscribe to this podcast and share it with your friends and your family. My goal is to help change 1 million lives with this work, because when you teach a woman, you teach an entire community. Everybody benefits and the love spreads. So please feel free to comment, review, share, and like. With your help, I know I can reach this goal. So have a beautiful day, and we will see you next week.